This is not intended to be an in-depth anything. It's just 30,000, 35,000 feet overview of the topic, Lord Balaram's appearance. There's so many, many, many things. His appearance, his Vraja Leela, his activities with Krishna in Mathura, his activities with Krishna in Dwarka, his departure. His departure, Leela, is very amazing. So we're just going to touch on a few things. The first is a little bit tattva. This is from Gopal Champu, from the Purva. Purva Champu portion of Gopal Champu. The appearance of all the objects in Vraja takes place every kalpa. Kalpa means the day of Brahma. Since Vraja is free of the touch of the bodies and minds of materialists, and since it is filled with kadamba trees, profusely glorified in the Varaha Purana, and since the abode of the pastimes of the eternal blissful Balaram, cows and cowherds, described profusely in the Padma Purana and Skanda Purana, and since Vrindavan has special powers beyond the material realm, Vraja is unlimited. And to embellish, sometimes Krishna and Balaram hold hands, laugh, and make others laugh. This agitates my heart. They're youthful pastimes in Vraja. Prabhupada writes in Krishna Book, Chapter 2, one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without hearing sufficiently, without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. One must have the spiritual strength, which is infused by Balaram or Sankarsana. Now, obviously, Prabhupada had some special appreciation for Balaram for more than one reason. One of the reasons was the place that he chose to establish the ISKCON temple was along Ramanreti. Ramanreti is the section where the cowherd boys would go every day herding cows. Ramanreti. And therefore he established Krishna Balaram deities along that pathway, Ramanreti pathway. But many, many, many times, so many times, I've heard devotees speculate what Prabhupada's eternal rasa of Krishna is, that he would repeat the verse many times. You know, how many, this Sukadeva Goswami in narrating the pastimes of the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, how many millions of lifetimes of pious activities have these boys undergone in order to be playing with Krishna in the natural grounds of Vrindavan. So he had high regard, of course, for all of Vraja, and very high regard for the cowherd boys, and very high regard for Balaram amongst the cowherd boys. So here's what he writes. I'll read it again. We cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. He makes that example because there are some yogis or teachers that teach physical strength, like calisthenics and exercise, and build your physical strength so you can become spiritually successful. There's some that teach that, but not that. One must have spiritual strength, which is infused by Balarama or Sankarshan. In Krishna Samhita, this is one of the, Krishna Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. There's 6 Sandarbhas. The final is Krishna Sandarbha. He writes also about Balaram. And the sequence goes like this. Sankarshan, or the Purusha incarnation, entered the womb of Rohini. Now what is Purusha? The implication of Purusha incarnation, it's the Sanskrit phrase is Kala. There's Angsa and Kala. Angsa is the direct expansion, and Kala is the expansion of the expansion. Maybe you're familiar with that German. That's Prabhupada's use of language. Others may use that language in a different way. That's how Prabhupada consistently. So that the Purusha avatars, like the Vishnu forms, Maha Vishnu, Barbadaksha Vishnu, Shinadaksha Vishnu, they're Purusha incarnations or Purusha avatars. And here, Jiva Goswami is including Sankarshan as a Purusha avatar, Purusha incarnation. That's the form of Lord Balaram that entered the womb of Rohini. Then Balaram, the original form of Sankarshan, or the Mula Sankarshan, entered the womb of Devaki. Now, little distinction and little chronology also. Distinction. In Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's first expansion, Balaram. Balaram's expansion is the Chatur Vyuha. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. 4. Chatur Vyuha. Those are angsas. It's in Goloka Vrindavan. So that's the Mula Sankarshan of Goloka. This is Krishna Sandarbha. So first, the Purusha form, Sankarshan, entered the womb of Rohini. And then Balaram, the Mula Sankarshan Balaram, entered the womb of Devaki. So that's the 7th child of Devaki. But even before the 7th child of Devaki, the Purusha incarnation Sankarshan entered the womb of Rohini. It's a detail, but that's what our acharyas are for, to help us with these details. Then, within Rohini's womb, Purusha Sankarshan and Balaram joined to become one single Balaram. Because you remember, I'm sure you remember, before Krishna appeared, Balaram was in the womb of Devaki. And Krishna called Yogamaya. Yes, some service. Please do 3 things. Oh, Yogamaya. 1, transfer Balaram from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And then Krishna even says, you may think he's very heavy, but I'll help you. You're my Yogamaya potency. So anything you need to transfer Balaram from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini, I'll help you. You'll be able. Number 2, you take birth in the womb of Yashoda, or from the womb of Yashoda. And then number 3, I'm going to make an arrangement for my father, child number 8 of Devaki and Vasudeva, to be transferred from the prison house of Kamsa to the side of Mother Yashoda. Vasudev going to carry me. He'll place me by the side of Yashoda, and you'll be brought back in my place to the prison house of Kamsa. And then Kamsa is going to try to kill you, but don't worry, you're my Yogamaya boat, so he can't kill you. And then service number 3, you will then transform yourself into Durga, meaning Yogamaya and Durga have a relationship. One is the expansion of the other. Durga is the material portion or the reflection portion of Yogamaya. And then you'll be known throughout the land as Durga by different names. And it's true, throughout all of the land, Durga is known by different names, different names. But it's the same potency, but just under the direction or order of Krishna, manifesting this way, manifesting that way. And so Yogamaya's answer was, yes, sir. And she did those 3 things. So that's how it happened. Within Rohini's womb, Purusha, Sankarshan, and Balaram being transferred by Yogamaya to the womb of Devaki, to the womb of Rohini, they joined into one single Balaram. Thus, Balaram Sankarshan appeared. So Balaram, or Balaram Sankarshan, even more specifically, is the son of Rohini. So one of his names is Rohini Nandana. And we find a little bit more, in case you're interested, in Chaitanya Charitamrita about this term Mula Sankarshan. Because chapter 5 of Adi Lila, there's extensive discussion about Lord Nityananda, who is not different than Balaram or Mula Sankarshan. So here you can read about it at your own convenience. I'm not going to go in depth, I said. I'm just going to be 30,000 feet up here looking down at some points. Sankarshan, Sheshanag, and the Vishnus. Remember the Vishnus, the Purusha incarnations, the Purusha avatars. They're expansions of Sankarshan, Sheshanag, and Vishnus who lie in the Karan ocean, Garbhodak ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions of Mula Sankarshan. Clear? I'm glad it's clear. It's nomenclature. But defining terms is important to understand these nice topics. So he's now taking birth as the son of Rohini, thus Rohini Nandana. Rohini was one of the wives of Vasudeva, or the total of 18 wives. So we can hear a little bit about the 18 wives of Vasudeva. After 3 months of pregnancy, so Rohini was pregnant. Vasudeva had created a child in the womb of Rohini. Vasudeva was very concerned about the safety of Rohini and the child because Kamsa, who could do anything at any time. So she was put in the care of Nanda Maharaj in Gokula. There's a relationship of not only friendship, there's family relationship as well. We'll see shortly. So 18 wives. The 7th child of Devaki was Balaram, was transferred to Rohini's room before his birth. Balaram remained in the womb of Rohini for 14 months, waiting for Krishna's appearance. So he appeared just before Krishna appeared, but he was in the womb of Rohini for a long time. which explains the closeness of their births, but the difference because she was 3 months pregnant before she was even sent to Gokula. Now, this is some commentary to explain a little bit more of the detail. Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, had completely separate residential quarters where he lived with his 18 wives. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one verse later, writes in his commentary, Vasudeva actually had 18 wives. We're going to hear a different number shortly. And now, chapter 84 of Canto 10, that's the residents of Vrindavan, the residents of Dwarka, they meet together at Kurukshetra for the solar eclipse. That's chapter 84. After Vasudeva's eyes had been decorated with black cosmetic and his body smeared with fresh butter, priests initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him and his 18 wives with sacred water. Mentioning this again because the number of wives is pretty consistent. Then some of the details. 7 of these wives were sisters. Devaki was one of those sisters. This is taken from 9th Canto Bhagavatam. They were all daughters of Devaka. Devaka was one of 2 sons of Ahuka. Ahuka was the father. Devaka was one son. Ugrasena was the other son. Ugrasena had a son named Amsa. So that means there's a relationship between Amsa and Devaki. So Devaki really wasn't the sister, cousin sister. Consistently, at the wedding of his sister, he was going to chop her head because he heard a voice from the sky. But they were brother and sister, but cousin sister, cousin brother, because their fathers were brothers. That's cousins. The remainder of Vasudeva's 11 wives came from other parents than Devaka. And here's a list. Canto 9, chapter 24. Devaki, Ravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Mandira, Rochana, Ila, and others were all wives of Anakundundubi, or Vasudeva. All of them, among them all, Devaki was the chief. Now, another name of Vasudeva is Anakundundubi. So whenever you hear that name, you know who that means. Because, he was given the name because he was always truthful. And when he was born, the celestials called out his name, Anakundundubi, Anakundundubi. So the name stuck. But later, Vasudeva, same, Anakundundubi and Vasudeva are the same person. And listed here are some of the wives. Now notice in this list from Canto 9, the numbers are important because the next verse is going to say something else. Canto 9, chapter 24, Ravi is different than Rohini, those first 3 names. But notice Canto 3, chapter 1, purport, Krishna's father, Vasudeva, had 16 wives. Wait a minute, there's 18 wives. 16 wives, and one of them named Pauravi or Rohini, the mother of Baladeva, was the sister of Vidura. This is Prabhupada's purport. Therefore, Vasudeva was the husband of Vidura's sister. Vasudeva was the husband of Vidura's sister, whose name is Pauravi, and thus they were brothers-in-law. There's this family network going on in the background we may not be aware, but Vasudeva was married to Vidura's sister, Pauravi, according to this purport. Vasudeva's sister Kunti, Vasudeva had a sister because his sister had the same father, was the wife of Pandu, Vidura's elder brother, and thus, in that sense, also Vasudeva's brother-in-law to Vidura, like double brother-in-law. Kunti, this is still, you see across the top, it just is interesting. Kunti was younger than Vasudeva, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it was munificently delivered by Vasudeva due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudeva never dissatisfied his wives, and at the same time he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she became a widow at an early age. Canto 3, Chapter 1, Srila Prabhupada's purport. So there's two discrepancies. One is 16 wives instead of 18 wives. That's one discrepancy. And the other is Pauravi being different than, or being the same as Rohini, when the previous purport, rather it's not just a purport, it's just a verse from the Bhagavatam, Pauravi is different than Rohini. I don't know how to reconcile them, so don't ask me. The answer is me, I don't know. But I'm pointing it out because it's nice to know some details, and when you start getting into details become important. In Brihat Bhagavatamrita, most of you know what that is. It's a book written by Sanatana Goswami. Essentially, it's a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's a very unique commentary. And in this is Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. I'm ahead of myself. Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, this is Rupa Goswami. The form of Balaram. I take shelter of Baladev, enemy of Pralamba. On the edge of his cheek dangles one earring. Notice his left ear. The lotuses decorating his ears are covered with beads. His tilak is made of musk. On his broad chest shines a gunjaberry necklace. His complexion is as white as an autumn cloud. His cloth is blue. His voice is deep, and his arms hang down to his knees. Nice description of Balaram's features, his form. He's leaning there on his plow. The plow is very important for agriculture, Krishi, Goraksha, but also for killing demons. He does different things with his plow. I'm not going to go into that just now. Similarly, Laghu Bhagavatamrita was again by Rupa Goswami. The topic of Laghu Bhagavatamrita is exclusively one topic. Incarnations of the Lord as he appeared in this world, the whole book, like that thick. Extensive. So it's on the category Lila Avatars. Lord Balaram's complexion was as white as camphor. He always dressed in garments dark as a rain cloud. So you consistently see Balaram dressed in this way. And there's his plow, really big. He has a nice smile. And in the childhood pastimes, so I'm just touching on topics. His birth pastime, indirectly mentioned, lightly mentioned. So here's Krishna and Balaram growing up together. Balaram is the elder brother by just a few days, but still the elder brother. So the older brother looks after the younger brother like the father and protecting this younger brother, and Balaram likes doing that. But they have very, very intimate affection for one another. And the two children, as they were growing up, they were very playful. Here's a painting where it just shows Krishna pulling the tail of a calf and going for a ride. And all the cowherd ladies are really afraid, oh, what's going to happen to this poor little boy? And he's just having fun, going for a calf ride, pulling his tail. Balaram would do the same. He'd seen Krishna do what he would do, and they were having fun. And of course, again and again, their behavior of stealing butter more than one time, many, many such pastimes, and feeding the monkeys and so forth. But it was difficult for them to hide in the storeroom because they're both effulgent. So even from a distance, they could be spotted. There's some detail in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Again, this is Rupa Goswami describing friendship, Sakya Rasa. Priyo, Bhakti Rasa, or Sakya Rasa, different. So my understanding is not so refined, but there was a predecessor person who wrote extensively on the science of rasa. Does anybody in the room know his name? The name just was there and then went away. I'll remember it, of course, as we go along. So he existed long before Rupa Goswami. You have a name? Bhartri Hari. Bhartri Hari. Yes?
She said Bharata Muni.
Bharata Muni. Bhartri Hari. Is that Bharata? Bhartri Hari Muni. So he long before Rupa Goswami, he wrote extensively on the science of rasa. Rupa Goswami was familiar with his language, and Rupa Goswami drew much from his language and modified it to some degree also because he wanted to conform that science of rasa must conform with the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So similar but somewhat modified language, Bhartri Hari Muni. So one of the terms along with Sakya Rasa is Preyo Bhakti Rasa. And one of the categories of Sakya Rasa is that of Balaram because he's a little older. So the friends, there's of equal age, a little older, a little younger, but still in the category of friendship or Sakya Rasa. So Balaram is in that category. And because Mother Yashoda knew of Balaram's affection for Krishna and Balaram's protective tendency towards Krishna, when Mother Yashoda heard that Krishna had eaten dirt, even Balaram said, "You've eaten dirt," and Krishna said, "They're liars." And if you don't believe it, you can look inside my mouth. It was an enactment of a pastime. No, there was an earlier pastime that didn't at all involve Balaram. There's a pastime in Canto 10, Chapter 7, where Mother Yashoda is breastfeeding Krishna, and as she's breastfeeding Krishna, she prepares to provide her breast from his mouth. He opens his mouth wide, and she sees the universal form inside his mouth. So this is event number 2. And it's far more extensively described later chapters. From Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Preyo Rasa or Sakya Rasa, in which Krishna and the devotee partake of the sweetness of one type of love, nourishes astonishing bliss in the heart. Priti Rasa, that's it, Dasya Rasa, and Vatsalya Rasa, Krishna's and the devotee's love are of different types. For this reason, those devotees devoted to Sakya Rasa understand that this Sakya Rasa is the best among all rasas. I mean, it's why they're in that rasa. They're very satisfied. Sometimes devotees ask, kind of curiosity type questions, in my opinion. If your eternal relationship with Krishna is X, can it become other than X? Which is redundant, because if we have an eternal relationship, how is it not X if it's X? You've heard questions like that before? I received one of those recently. Here's an answer that I gave. You read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you get an answer to your question. That's my answer. Because this question is speculative. You don't need to speculate. Just read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's not speculative. It's authoritative. And then you'll know. And then, yes, there is such a thing as mixture of rasas. But then some rasas are compatible and some rasas are not compatible. It's not exactly that X becomes non-X. It's just there's a mixture. And then the mixture subsides and it becomes prominently X. And then another mixture, but still prominently X, and then that mixture subsides. And so there's a flow, as in Prabhupada's words. Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Prabhupada a similar question: can one change one's rasa? Prabhupada's answer was, in the spiritual world, it's not static, it's dynamic. He didn't elaborate much, but here's a little bit of elaboration. X remains X. One's eternal relationship and eternal form, our eternal relationship and eternal form, they're eternal. And then sometimes there's a mix. And sometimes the mix subsides like waves in the ocean or waves in a river. Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. Waves move, but it's still water. Okay. So the point is, from Rupa Goswami's writings, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, those in Sakya Rasa, they're more than satisfied. As far as they're concerned, it's the best. Although, from the vantage point of Rupa Goswami, here's this celebrated verse. You've heard the verse before. It's not his writing. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargina Va Kalpita. This is a commentator. Srinath Chakravarti wrote a commentary on the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. This is part of the introductory verse to the entire Srimad Bhagavatam commentary. There's no conception of worship better than that which was conceived of by the damsels of Vrindavan. That's Mahaprabhu's opinion. So now, Balarama is in this category of friendship. Sakya. So the friends in Vraja suffer from not seeing Krishna even for a moment. They play with him at all times, and their life depends on Krishna. For this reason, they are considered the chief among all the friends. And commentary to this is a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is his commentary on this verse. Krishna wanted the Godward Voices Association being controlled by his own prema for them. What does that mean? Krishna is controlled by his devotees in the sense that he has love for his devotees, and Krishna is controlled by the prema that he has for those devotees. He's the supreme controller. He's the Karana Karana, the cause of all causes. Ishvara Karma. Ishvara Karma. Prabhupada's explanation. We're all Ishwaras of something. You're Ishwaras of your shoelaces. Or, something. And not even always your shoelaces. So anyway, we're all little Ishwaras, and there's one who has no Ishwara above him, that's the Parameshwar. But then the Parameshwar is controlled by his prema for his devotees, or is controlled by his devotees' love for him. And because of their love for him, he has love for them, and he's controlled by their love for him and his love for them. But that's perfection, that's the spiritual world. Jiva Goswami writes, when Balaram and the other boys saw that Krishna had been devoured by the gigantic duck baka, they became almost unconscious, like senses without life. Here's a painting of Bakasura. He captured Krishna in his big baka beak. And Krishna allowed himself to stay there for some time. And as he stayed there for some time, it was for a purpose. So the cowherd boys would feel, and they fainted. They became unconscious. And then that was an ecstasy, unconscious, not just the other kind. And then Krishna enlarged, just made his body very hot, so that the duck demon had to spit him out, and then he bifurcated his beak and finished Bakasura. The poor cowherd boys feeling ecstasy. In this way, we're at the 30,000 feet, just flying over Krishna's exchange of loving dealings with the cowherd boys and his friends, headed by Balaram. There was a very nice pastime that you're all familiar with, and that nice pastime had to do with Krishna's killing the Aghasura demon. Anyone not familiar with Krishna's killing the Aghasura demon? Then you need to hear me say the story. Giant, it's one of the demons sent by Kamsa. Shape-changing demon, so he assumed the form of a humongous serpent with the upper lip up in the sky, the lower lip on the ground, and his mouth wide open, wanting to devour Krishna. And when the cowherd boys were off in the pasturing ground, they saw this giant serpent. They thought it was a big cave, let's go play. Boys, right? And so they entered the mouth of Aghasura. And Krishna wanted to call out, but it was too late. They had already entered into the mouth of Aghasura. But he didn't close his mouth yet. He was waiting for Krishna to enter. So when Krishna entered, he closed his mouth. You know what happened? Krishna became bigger and bigger and bigger. And the life air of Aghasura was blocked. And his life air left of the soft spot on the top of his head. And his soul went zooming up in the air. Krishna left the mouth of Aghasura along with the other cowherd boys, and that soul of Aghasura merged with the body of Krishna. And the cowherd boys didn't see all that. They just said, wow, you did a nice job. Let's go have lunch. They were having lunch. Brahma saw the whole thing. So Brahma thought, what's the limit of Krishna's? He was curious. Brahma, what's the power of Brahma? He can build the universe. Build a table or build a house or build this, this flew from to DC from Atlanta. Whoever designed that airport, they must have been drunk. It's like so complicated. Anyway. So yeah, we can build something, but Brahma's God, he can build anything. He can provide, he can give him the materials and the intelligence, and he can build anything. Whole universe, no problem. So what's the limit of Krishna's powers? He was curious. He wanted to know. So he did a naughty thing. He stole the calves, stole the cowherd boys, one by one, put them in the cave. What's Krishna going to do? You know what Krishna did. He manifested the calves and cowherd boys. And that manifesting of the calves and cowherd boys happened to be on the day of Balaram's birthday. So he wasn't there. He was at home with mom and dad having a festival, birthday party. And the rest of the cowherd boys went up because the cows don't have a birthday party. They're going to go to the pasturing ground. So Balaram wasn't there. So he didn't see what happened. And for one whole year, the calves, which were Krishna, were satisfying the desire of the cows to have Krishna as their calf. So Krishna became their calf for one full year. And the mothers had a desire that they could have Krishna as their son. So Krishna became their son. What mother wouldn't recognize this is my son, this is a makeshift son? Mothers are not going to mistake another son for their son. But it was a perfect match. Voice, mannerisms, stature, everything, complete replica for a whole year. And even Balaram didn't know. For a whole year. This is a painting that shows when the cows were up on top of the hill and they saw the calves at the bottom of the hill, they came running down the hill to be with their calves. Has anyone seen a cow run? Really awkward. But they can run. It's really awkward, but they can run. And they were running down the hill. The cowherd men were running down the hill. Get back here, get back here with their sticks. When they got to the bottom of the hill, they saw their sons. They forgot the cows. They just embraced their sons. And the calves were with the cows were with the calves. And Krishna was fulfilling their desire, in other words, for one whole year. And only towards the end of that year did Yogamaya curtain draw back a little bit, and Balaram started to see things that he hadn't seen for the earlier part of that year. And he started to put two and two together and said, wait a minute, these are not just my friends. This is Krishna. Here's a nice description quoted in Bhakti Sarvata Sindhu, same Rupa Goswami's writing, from Skanda Purana, where Narada is speaking to Yudhishthira. Krishna, along with Balaram, surrounded by the boys of Braja, plays eternally in Vrindavan with cows and calves. More about the friendship with Balaram. Today is my birthday tithi. Therefore, my affectionate mother has kept me at home in order to bathe me. Subal, tell Krishna that I said they should by no means go to Kaliya's lake today. That's another day that on Balaram's birthday he stayed home. Another important pastime. Krishna's dancing on the woods of the Kaliya serpent. So the Agasura demon and the Kaliya encounter. Balaram is back at home. Jiva Goswami's commentary. This is not the yearly birthday, but a monthly day when the moon enters his birth constellation. That's a detail. It's a nice detail. Because on his actual birthday, which would be a big celebration, Krishna would not come. It should be understood that the message could not be delivered quickly by Subal, who delayed going otherwise, as on previous days, Krishna would not have disobeyed Balaram's instruction on this day and gone to the Kali lake. Nice. Compliments of Jiva Goswami. So sure enough, when Krishna was dancing on the hoods of the Kali serpent, before he danced on the hoods of the Kali serpent, he was in the grip of the coils of the Kali serpent. And someone ran back to Nandaram to inform Nanda Maharaj, come quickly, Krishna's in trouble, because usually it's the other way around. They're in trouble, they call the Krishna for help, Krishna. And then what do you do when Krishna's in trouble? You go to Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj became very anxious and fatherly, and Balaram is, Krishna's just having fun, nothing to worry about. When they saw the whole scene, they got to the Kali lake. Balaram stopped them because he's so strong. He's physically strong as well as spiritually strong. And he wouldn't let them enter the lake because it was poison. They would die. And then Krishna had achieved what he wanted, the intensification of love for him. And then he slipped out of the Kali spoils and did his dancing. Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 15. Lord Krishna speaking to Baladev. This land of Braja is glorified today. Your lotus feet have touched the earth and grass, your fingers have touched the trees and creepers, and your merciful eyes have glanced upon river sills, birds, and beasts. The gopis have been embraced by your arms, and even the goddess of fortune desires this. Now all of these are glorified. So there's one BBT painting, very similar scene, a different BBT painting, and we're almost done. Some of you have been to Govardhan Hill. How many here have been to Govardhan Hill? And you recognize that photograph in the top of Govardhan Hill? Because you're going in a southerly direction along the eastern side of Govardhan Hill. You pass Govardhan town. There's a long stretch. And up on the right side, we look up on the right side. There's a structure up on the right side. The structure up on the right side is where Balaram was watching Krishna's rasa dance. There are two favorite areas of Krishna, two different seasons. They're Krishna's favorite seasons. And one of them is at the southern end of Govardhan Hill. So this is not that close to the southern end, but he could see from distance because it was a full moon, very bright, and he saw Krishna's rasa dance. And he was so ecstatic that his crown fell off. And that's the vantage point where his crown fell off. Now, this painting, devotees don't go on Govardhan Hill. It's not an ISKCON devotee went up, took a photograph. That's what the structure is on top of the hill. And here's the pujari dealing with the what had fallen from the hill. And there you see that with all the flowers. This is called the Mukut Shila. The Mukut Shila, here's without all the flowers around it, an impression on the top. And look closely at the impression on the top, and it's the crown of Balaram that fell on top of this Shila. There's a number of photographs indicating the same from different angles. Here's a very close-up picture. So we're still in Vrindavan with Balaram and Krishna. And there were two demons, and this is it for this evening. Two demons that Balaram killed. One of them was Dhenukasura. Now, Dhenukasura was a demon sent by Kamsa to kill Krishna. And Dhenuka had some buddies. And what Dhenuka and his buddies did is they kept people away from this forest that had cow fruits, very fragrant and very tasteful fruits. And anybody that came into that forest, they would eat them. So the cowherd boys smelled, they heard, so they wanted, and Krishna agreed. Balaram volunteered that he kill the demon myself. Denuka came charging. There's different paintings of the scene. The ass demon tried kicking Balaram with his hind feet. No problem for Balaram to grab his hind feet and whirled him around, and threw him on top of the tree. There's the coward boy watching, and when Denuka got tossed into the top of the tree, his buddies came charging. Krishna came into the act at that time, and they were tossing the demons left and right and sideways up on top of the tall trees. And when they landed on the top of the tall trees, the fruits fell. The coward boys went around gathering up the fruit from the tall trees. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Krishna Samhita and Chaitanya Shikshamrita describes that each of the demons killed by Krishna and Balaram represent some of the obstacles in spiritual life. So here's his writing. Dhenukasura represents those who are grossly foolish, like hardworking beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the Supreme. Similarly, Dhenuka also represents gross materialistic intelligence, ignoring spiritual knowledge. At Namam Drishpitsanamota. Same. One more, and then we're done. Krishna's killing, Balaram's killing of Pralambasura. Who is Pralambasura? Another demon sent by Kamsa, and he had a plan. His plan was to assume the form of a cowherd boy, play with the cowherd boys as if he was one of the cowherd boys, and kill Krishna from that position as, an imitation cowherd boy. As soon as he came into the assembly, Krishna immediately knew that he had his eye on him. So one of the games that the cowherd boys would play is wrestling. They call it carriers and passengers, but it's wrestling. And whoever lost in the wrestling match had to carry the one who won in the wrestling match on his shoulders. And Krishna lost to Sridham, that you see on the right side. And on the left, this imitation Kalambasura cowherd boy lost to Balaram, so he had to carry Balaram. Talkative little boy. Non-stop. On the flight over here, non-stop. Opposite where I was sitting. Not gonna get nice boy. Non-stop. So the painting shows Balaram being carried by Kalambasura because Balaram won, Kalambasura lost, so he had to carry. And Balaram was the passenger. Notice the club on Balaram's shoulder. And in this way they had their various pastimes, but as they were going, Kalambasura kept going and going and going, and Balaram was having fun being carried. And then he got bigger and bigger and bigger. He assumed his demon size. That didn't seem right. So Balaram understood what was going on. With one blow of his fist, he didn't need his plow, just his fist, smashed the head of Kalambasura, and he fell to the ground. When he fell to the ground, his demon body manifest, giant form, You see there he's holding a tree. That's how big his form was. And in the background there's the coward voice celebrating Balaram's victory. Pralambasura, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, represents lusty inclinations or desire for personal gain and honor. Nava Puja Pratishtha. There's the painting on the left, painting on the right, showing persons who get dragged down by these lower inclinations, lusty inclinations, or personal gain. And Kalambasur represents lusty inclinations, desire for personal gain and honor. So it's an obstacle on the path of bhakti, for sure. And Krishna, Balaram's killing of Kalambasur, but spiritual strength is needed to deal with such obstacles, such tendencies within oneself. And this is our last slide. When I visit in Houston, they have a very nice setup in Houston. There's a whole building that's called the Sannyas Ashram. It's like sannyasis only are staying in that building. It's not always filled, but that's sannyasis staying in that building. Downstairs there's Radha Krishna Prabhu, who's a brahmachari, but he's like a Naishtika brahmachari. He's like a sannyasi altogether. And many times I've been there, there's multiple sannyasis staying in the sannyas ashram at the same time. Not always like that, but it's a nice place. And in the room where I stay, this is the painting that's on the wall. So I'm just sharing with you. One of my favorite activities when visiting Houston is chanting japa in that room. Because by sitting peacefully, trying to absorb myself in the holy name, it helps as seeing the form of Rama Rama Hari Hari. Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari, Hare Rama 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 Hari Hari. So Brahma can have different meanings, and one of them certainly is Balarama. And Balaram gives one spiritual strength. So there's an internal prayer. Lord Balaram, please give me the strength to carry out my devotional service. And he smiles. He likes to give strength to his devotees. So that's it for this evening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any discussion? 12 minutes after 8. We didn't have to take too long. You put the microphone near the speaker, it'll make that noise. We're all anxious to hear whatever it is you're going to say.
Really wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. It's just a curiosity question. I was just wondering, when Rohini Mata was pregnant 3 months before coming to
Gokula.
Nandamara's house. So, but when Balaram was, when she got miscarriage, and Balaram was placed in her womb, and then, what happened to the baby?
What happened to the what?
Baby that she was carrying.
He was transferred. He was transferred. The understanding, the scuttlebutt, the gossip, the rumor was she had a miscarriage. Now, that's what people thought, but she didn't think, because there was no child. The 7th child was transferred. So what was her thought? I don't know what her thought was. But that what was out and about was there was a miscarriage.
one more thing is that we were reading Krishna book, and I don't know the details about Subhadra Mata, and Subhadra Devi is like, no, I know as a Krishna and Balaram's sister, but I don't know whose daughter is she.
I'm sure I know, but it's somewhere in my memory file that I don't have the password for right now. Does anybody in the room have the answer to that question? You have the answer?
You sent a question answer in askfrompersonme.com
Yeah.
once, and you mentioned Devaki's daughter. That's what is mentioned. Detail is in the answer. I don't have all the details.
Devaki's daughter. I'll see if I can find the answer to that question. I'll send it to you if I can find the answer to that question. And then you can forward it to others. Anything else? Yes, behind you?
Is there any reason that Krishna did not want Balaram in the pastime of killing Aghasura and Kala?
Oh, yes. The answer, there's a reason behind everything, or a seed of Krishna's desire behind everything. And he wanted that there not be an interference in the feelings of her mothers for Krishna as their son, the feelings of the cows for Krishna as the calf. He was reciprocating the parental affection of the mothers and the cows, but he didn't want that to have Balaram's knowing it to disturb in any way that pastime. So it was just like a squeaky clean pastime without any ruffles. So it was so that the whole year could pass and Balaram wouldn't know. So that's why he wasn't there for that event. Because otherwise he would know. No, he's omniscient. As Krishna is omniscient. So how could he not know if he's omniscient? Yogamaya. Is that right?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, class for Guru Maharaj. My question is that as devotees, we always seek to derive or pray Lord Balaram for spiritual strength.
Yeah.
And if
Good.
Lord Balaram favors us, then we can have the spiritual strength to perform the devotional services. So my question is, Guru Maharaj, that in Mahabharata we see that Duryodhan was very much favored by Lord Balaram, yet he never had any favorable feelings for Lord Krishna. Is it because of his own defect, because he was very envious and he did not want to develop love for Krishna, or this question always comes to my mind.
Specifically, let me repeat what I think you're asking. You tell me if I got it right. Duryodhana had a liking for Balaram, but a disliking for Krishna. Why? Is there some reason behind that? I want to spend some, before Balaram's appearance today, that's one of the topics I want to research more. The angle that I wanted to research more was, how is it that Duryodhana even became the student of Balarama. What were the circumstances? Because Bhima was also a student of Balarama, but was fighting with clubs. So, what was that history? How did it come to be? But, Duryodhana, it's not necessarily that Duryodhana had feelings of affection for Balarama. Duryodhana wanted to fight. Balarama was willing to teach him. He was good at fighting, good at teaching, and so utilitarian, not necessarily devotion. Because his mentality was demon-like. I mean, to be opposed to the Pandavas means to be opposed to Krishna. Fundamentally opposed to the Pandavas and Krishna means he's also opposed to Balarama. Because Balarama had great affection for the Pandavas as well, as did Krishna. Not that there was affection between Krishna and the Pandavas, but not between Balarama and the Pandavas. So it's not really devotion. It's one level of what was it like? It was utilitarian. So there's a formality in learning something. You need a teacher. So Balarama was willing to be the teacher, so there was some regard between the student and the teacher. At least you give me something, I'll give you a little respect. Big introduction. But it stops there. It wasn't really a deep kind of affection. But Balarama is different. Balarama had affection. No, why did Balarama have affection for a diabolical person that didn't like Krishna, didn't like the Pandavas, but had affection? That's a good question. He's very kind, magnanimous, Balarama. And ultimately, Balarama yielded to what Krishna wanted in all circumstances, including this one. Then you could go down a little bit, and then there's the pastime, the bigger picture of the pastime that Krishna wanted to perform during the whole of his appearance in this world, that's eliminating the demoniac. So there's intrigue. Krishna doesn't always move in a straight line. It's sometimes very curious, and there's twists and the turns to make it very interesting. And there's a very interesting twist and turn. Balaram, his dear Balaram, first expansion Balaram, is the teacher of Duryodhana, who tried in multiple ways to kill the Pandavas. And that's his brother. It's his dear first expansion. So there's intrigue. It's not easy to surface-wise, not easy to understand. But it has something to do with the purpose of Krishna's appearance. Regardless of this or that or the other thing, Krishna upholds his word. His word is, Pritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadusvatam. So he's going to finish them regardless. Including, how to kill Duryodhana. Anything else? How about our backseat folks? Yes, I thought so. Mahamantra, pass the microphone over a bit. Could you see the images on the screen? Really? Wow. Okay.
Maharaj, you were talking about mixture of rasas. Yes, is it, from my understanding, is it like sometimes wives become protective of husbands?
Yeah. I recommend it's very subtle, and a little complex. You might even say complicated, but it's certainly subtle. And so to just make broad statements about something that's very subtle, it doesn't do justice to that which is very subtle. But yes, so then the teaching says there's some mixtures that are compatible and some that are not. And then the baseline is there's a predominant, and then this additional rasa rises. It seems to take a prominence, it subsides, and the principle, the Sai Baba remains because it's Sai Baba. It's Sai Baba. It's the axle upon which the wheel turns. And then the wheel may show this feature or that feature. So, back to your question. Yes. There's compatible ones and there's incompatible ones. It's a whole science. That's it. More?
One question, it is said that the Pralambasura and Dhenukasura, Krishna doesn't kill them, Balaram kills them. And
Yes.
there was a reason for that, why Krishna doesn't go to those kind of anarthas in the living entity. Only Balaram has to cleanse them. So my question is, what's the significance? And second thing, is it that those anarthas that Balaram cleanses or kills are like so gross that even Krishna
No,
not
no. Krishna has no power. There are there's subtle features to all of this, and I didn't get there yet. Before Balaram's appearance today, I planned to this other question about Balaram teaching Duryodhana and all of that topic. I want to become much more familiar with what our acharyas say than I am this evening. And same, the question you're asking. So this is a warm up for me. It's just like putting on the radar screen things that what you said is what I remember. That is, Krishna defers certain demons that Balaram should kill because it requires spirit. But it's not that Krishna doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the capacity, doesn't have the Shakti. He gives some things to Balaram to do. And it has very much to do with chapter 5 of Adi Lila. In the sense that the function of Guru or Guru Tattva is very much connected to Balarama. Because Guru function is very much connected to Balaram Tattva. Or the empowerment that a Guru may have is derived from the powerfulness of Balaram to help the student or disciple or the receiver of transcendent knowledge to have the obstacles removed. And these categories of obstacles are ones that are entrusted to Balaram. So it's not, same thing a different way. It's not that Balaram can't take care of it, or excuse me, not that Krishna can't take care of it. He entrusts some services to Balaram, and Balaram takes care of it. Very nicely. Now there's more subtleties to this that at the moment not fresh in my mind, but what you said is correct. So it's a service. In one sense, Krishna doesn't need anybody's service. He can do anything and everything without anybody's needing anyone's help. He doesn't need servants. He gives service according to one's capacity, and that's Balaram's capacity, and so he gives him that service. He doesn't interfere. Balaram's quite capable. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. We heard about Lord Balaram being covered by Yogamaya during the 1 year that.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, we hear about Krishna's reciprocation to the devotees and the Brajavasi's kind of ecstasies, but we rarely hear about what Balaram, whether he's going through the same ecstasies as the Brajavasis or whether he's understanding what Krishna's, reciprocation is. So is it sometimes one way or the other that Balaram is feeling, or is it always in tune with Krishna, or how does Balaram's service manifest in different situations?
Well, I think what you're asking is, how does the ebb and flow of Krishna's exchanges with Balaram work? And sometimes it's like this, and sometimes it's like that, and it has everything to do with Krishna's happiness, and Krishna's happiness has something to do with his devotee's happiness, and Balaram is his devotee, or his expansion, but his devotee, because Balaram is devoted to Krishna. It's just a flow. And if the answer of why does it flow this way instead of that way, it has everything to do with the dynamic of loving exchange. So Krishna wanted a pastime, and the pastime was facilitated by Balaram being absent for that particular day, and for his being covered by Yogamaya. But Mother Yasoda becomes covered by Yogamaya. The gopis become, according to Krishna's desire, Yogamaya works. And sometimes Yogamaya works in such a way it looks like he's in difficulty. Besides the Kali and Serpent, there's other things, in dealing with gopis. And Jatila and Kutila and all of that, all of those nice pastimes, where it looks like Krishna becomes bewildered. And so Krishna, sometimes in Krishna's pastimes, he'll call for Vrinda Devi, help me. And Vrinda Devi says, I have to go check with Purnamasi. They come up with a plan, and so they do things. It's just loving exchange. The flow of loving exchange. And how do you calculate it? It's a flowing of loving exchange. It's not with rules, or necessarily with some purpose other than Krishna's happiness, and that Krishna's happiness, the happiness of his devotees, and that's the rule. It breaks all rules. The regulative, the sadhana stages are violated. Where someone takes another position, and Krishna loves it. And then it goes back to that other position, Krishna loves it. It is Vrindavan. It's unpredictable, very spontaneous, but filled with sweetness and loving dealing. That's my answer to your question. That they go this way and that way, according to the ecstasy of Krishna and the ecstasy of Balaram. Because Balaram's ecstasy is Krishna's happiness. Radharani's happiness is Krishna's happiness. And she'll sometimes say nasty things. Being Krishna enjoys it. More than submissiveness of Chandravali. Anyway, it's loving exchange. There's the rule of do's and don'ts disappear. It's spontaneous. The rule is madhurya, the sweetness of loving exchange. Yes, over here, last question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Nice picture one. So my question is, we hear Yogamaya in Krishna is similar in Ramayana. We generally see Lord Lakshman serving Ram directly, but we don't hear anything. Is there anything concept?
There's the emphasis is found in Krishna's Leela largely because of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the commentaries of our acharyas who heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the emphasis upon rasa. It's not like there's no understanding of rasa, but there's such a prominent emphasis on rasa that Yogamaya, that the role of Yogamaya becomes more visible and prominent. So there must be something comparable in Ramayana. And I'm not aware of it in part because this doesn't get the same emphasis. The principal rasas are there. It's known, but it's commentators are not getting the same emphasis, at least in my awareness. So back to your question, is there a similar, because there's a person, Purnamasi, and then Purnamasi has her lieutenant, that's Vrinda Devi. So Vrinda Devi, etc., 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 etc. Some years ago, I don't know if you remember, maybe you weren't even around. Some of you in the room may remember. There was a seminar at the Potomac Temple dealing with personalities from Raja, because there was some appreciation of personalities from Vrindavan. Can you do something about personalities from Ramayana? Can you use personalities from Raja? So there's a whole topic on Vrinda Devi right here at the Potomac Temple. There's a lot about Vrinda Devi and Tulsi Devi and the relationship with her relationship with she's Neela Shakti. So is there in Ramayana, is there such a thing as Leela Shakti? There's not emphasis in the same way. There's certainly Leela. But is there Leela Shakti, and is there a personality that oversees Leela Shakti, the personified? So the emphasis is not the same in Ramayana. But it's at play. Just what our acharyas have raised up and drawn our attention to and so forth. In Bhagavatam, following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's so very important. So hear so much about these personalities. Yogamaya, this and that. Send me a little note. I have people that I ask the Ramayana questions to, and often they have an answer. Not always. Yes, you get the last question.
Thank you.
Here
Hare
comes the
Krishna
microphone.
Guru Maharaj.
Here comes the microphone.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the opportunity to ask this question. Actually, I have a couple of questions. One is follow-up question on what Mataji asked. Krishna must know that Balaram and his friends are safe in the cave.
He must know that the Balaram does
Yeah,
what?
he knows, but why he allowed it to be 1 year in the cave?
Why not?
But he must be
Because
missing then?
my understanding is very simple.
Mhm.
It's Krishna's desire was like that because he didn't want any waves, just like very smooth, because the boys that were still in the cave were still in the cave for 1 year. And they had to eat, they had to sleep, they had to pass. Their bodies got bigger. And when they came out of the cave, it was like they woke up as if they had just been asleep and they were 1 year bigger. And then the coward boys. So as these changes are going on, how's Balaram going to process all that? So Krishna wanted Balaram to not know. So the pastime could go on unimpeded. no ruffles. I mean, Balaram could be look the other way while he's knowing what's going on. He could do that too. Krishna could pull him to the side and say, Balaram, I'm pulling up a pastime here. So this mom's the word, okay? He just chose to do otherwise by his own sweet will, so that Balaram wouldn't know there'd be no ruffling in the pastimes. And then towards the end, a curtain pulled back, and he started to see things. You start to understand what Krishna was doing. Anyway, it was Krishna's plan. That's why.
Thank you, Maharaj. One more question. Usually I hear spiritual journey, spiritual path, spirituality. For me today, spiritual strength stands out. The word stands out. How do devotee build spiritual strength?
Can you speak right into the microphone? Thank you.
So for me, the spiritual strength word from today's session stands out. How do one build their spiritual strength?
You want to know how to get spiritual strength?
Yes.
That's your question. Balaram. You get strength from Balaram. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And then exactly as we're doing, you hear about him, you can get strength from him. As your attention becomes drawn to him, his attention becomes drawn to you. That means you get strength. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.